Alrighty, guys, it is crazy to think about, but Superman, 2025 Superman, the film that we have all been waiting for such a long time, is just over 3 months away. Crazy, right? Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. Superman is going to launch, I think, unofficially, because officially the DCU was launched by, was launched by Creature Commandos, but I think all of us, I've said this before, have been viewing Superman as the real launch to the DCU. And with that, we talked about previously on the podcast, comes a lot of pressure. Now, another conversation, though, aside from just what the Superman film can do in terms of DCU success and what it can do, to propel the universe forward, aside from that, another conversation that we've been having is how the DCU, and Superman in particular, how interconnected it's all going to be. Because I think, and I'm just speaking anecdotally from videos that I've seen and people and articles that I've read, but also comments, right? People talking to me, which I love, by the way, love talking with everyone in the comments and having that discussion. I think it's great. That's part of the reason. It's a big reason why I really enjoy, making these YouTube videos and doing the podcast, right? Is to talk about these things and have some healthy discussion. And a lot of the conversation that I've been having in regards to that is with people who say, well, no, the DCU is going to be different than Marvel because the DCU is going to be standalone. Everything's going to be standalone. And it's fair to say that the DCU, based on James Gunn's comments, is going to be different in the way that they structure themselves. Now, I have been clarifying, and I think this is fair to say from my estimation, that the reason the MCU is struggling these days is not because it's interconnected. And I think it's the counterexample, the counterfactual that I like to give is, okay, if Secret Invasion, or if, the Marvels, or Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania, or Eternals for most people, even though I love Eternals, if those movies were beloved, and they were just as disconnected from the rest of the MCU as they are now, for the most part, right? I don't think we're having this conversation. I think we're having more of a curiosity conversation of, I wonder how things are going to start to connect as we head into Doomsday, but we're not having the MCU is failing conversation. I don't think it has really much to do at all with it being interconnected. Similarly, I don't think the DCU would have success if everything was just standalone inherently. It could, but I think it's a moot point, because the point I've been making is that while, yes, absolutely, 100% agree, James Gunn is approaching his interconnectivity with the DCU differently than Kevin Feige has been with the MCU. It doesn't mean that every project in the DCU is standalone. That brings us to the topic for today's segment here, which is that Nathan Fillion has been confirmed, or at least all but confirmed by the major trades. I'm reading an article from Hollywood Reporter. I believe it was first cited from Entertainment Weekly, another pretty reputable source here, that Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner is going to return in Lanterns. The interesting thing about this is that when I first saw the headline, I kind of thought, hasn't this already been confirmed? But I think it was maybe a rumor or an offhanded comment. So this is pretty much official confirmation now that Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner is going to be in Lanterns. And the only reason I'm making this segment really, because, we could just say, oh, Nathan Fillion, Guy Gardner, going to be in Lanterns, and that's it. I want to make this segment to reiterate the fact that I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing that the DCU is going to have some level of interconnectivity. I'm not saying that at all. We can have that discussion, and that's for another day. And again, I think really what we need to do is just wait and see how it's going to play out. But to say that the DCU is going to be completely standalone, and again, I'm just speaking from actual commenters, and you might be super well-meaning, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody. Not at all. Not at all. Just based on, though, conversations that I've had in the comments for people who are like, well, the reason the DCU is going to be good and the reason that Marvel sucks is because Marvel is interconnected and DC is not going to be interconnected. Everything's going to be standalone. It's not true. Some projects might be very standalone, just like how Guardians of the Galaxy, for the most part, was very standalone from the rest of it. And how, honestly, Doctor Strange was pretty standalone. Like, in that sense, yes, absolutely. Swamp Thing is not going to have much to do with anything. Werewolf by Night didn't have much to do with anything. The reason that we're bringing it up as a problem is because the MCU seems fractured, right? And so, again, Superman, and this is also another conversation to have, is whether or not it has too many things going on for it. We don't know, right? It could be. It could not be. I think that's a conversation we're going to have after the movie comes out. But Nathan Fillion, Guy Gardner, is going to go from Superman, which, by the way, just as a side note, I know that his haircut is comic book accurate. I still can't get over it. It just doesn't look good to me. I get it. I get it. Comic book accurate. I don't think that everything from comics translates super well into film. I know a lot of people were really, really happy about it. I'm somebody who just not a big fan of it. All that aside, Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner is going to go from Superman to Lanterns. Millie Alcock's Supergirl is going to go from Superman to her own film. The Engineer is going to go from Superman to The Authority, whenever that comes out. There are things that are going to be interconnected within this universe. So I wanted to make this segment just to kind of talk about this again, because I think it's an interesting point, and to kind of push back on the narrative that, oh, everything in the DCU is going to be standalone. Not a conversation about whether or not that's a good thing, a conversation about just the fact that that is happening in the first place. So guys, what do you think of the news that Guy Gardner is going to be going from Superman right into the Lanterns show coming out in 2026? Let me know in the comments down below.